Crack. With a stone in it. You are listening at FameTV.info. There was darkness and stone and something blue, away from me, and there was a glowing stone that it was just lying there, away from the blue part. The stone was pulsing that I liked that, the glitter that was everywhere was sucked in by the stone from the blue thing, where I wasn't. Pulse. 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 Pulse that I liked to watch the blue stone pulsing that I also liked the white that was under the blue, the glitter everywhere often swirled in funny ways when they came in from the blue. I like watching that. Sometimes something big flew around in the blue, that was interesting, too. It made the glitter swirl more and brighter, so that was good. Sometimes it was dark and sometimes it was orange outside, too. The dark was nice because it had more glitter high up and the orange made the white shine in many different hues. Pulse. 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 The stone grew and pulsed more. It shone brighter. Something was outside in the night and tried grabbing it, but the stone was too far inside and the crack too small for the claw reaching for it. It was one of the big flying things. The flying thing lost 2 scales trying to get the stone that I knew the thing reaching for the stone was a claw, because it was in the crack. And I knew about scales, too. Because they were inside, there was a bit of skin and a drop of blood on the scales, too. That it was dragon blood. The scales were dragon scales. That I didn't know what a dragon was though, because there had never been a dragon in the crack. Still, I liked the stone and didn't want any more claws trying to steal it. Suddenly the stone was in the very back of the crack, hidden behind uneven gray stone. That was better. But how did the stone get there? Strange. Pulse. 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 Blue, orange, black, orange, blue. Sometimes the white became green and gray, with a bit of blue in some places. It was a long time. Then something changed. For a little while glitter danced wildly and things were blown into the crack. Leaves. That I watched the leaves for a long time, until they disappeared and left something black behind in the crack. Humus. Pulse. 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 Things repeated themselves in an endless cycle. The only thing that changed was that eventually more leaves gathered and more humus started to fill the crack. The blue stone was buried in the humus. That it grew tiring. Boring. That I wanted something new. Pulse. 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 One day there was something new. Seed. There was a seed. That I watched the seed, curious what it might be. After a few changes of color outside, the seed became moss. The moss grew and I watched excitedly as it first covered the humus and then, eventually, the whole crack. The moss was full of glitter and the blue stone buried in the humus that kept sucking in more and more of it. Pulse. 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 Much time passed. Tiny life forms started living inside the humus. Things similar to moss on a base level and things that ate moss and those smaller things. There were hundreds of different names, but all were very tiny. They were full of glitter and gave a lot of it to the blue stone. Those tiny things started turning the hard rock into earth. Still the whole crack, away from the entrance, was soon so full of life everything tried taking hold close to the entrance. The swirling glitter ripped it all away though. I didn't like that. I wanted the crack to go deeper, so I could have more life inside. More glitter. I didn't know why, but the glitter was important. I really wanted something like what I sometimes saw when the white went away. Something asked me a question. I imagined a roughly dome-shaped cave baying the crack. Glitter swirled from the blue stone and the dome-shaped cave, with very uneven floors and walls, appeared behind the deepest part of the crack, with just a small hole large enough for the blue stone as its entrance appeared. The new cave was large enough for a dragon to fit into it. I was happy. The tiny life form spread there, turning stone into earth, while the moss spread. It didn't really cost me much glitter. It was because the pulsing stone had been collecting glitter for a very long time that I could make it bigger, but I liked watching as everything grew enough. It would take time for life to cover every inch of it. Why make it bigger? And the bottom water started forming little puddles in the hard stone. That was fascinating to watch. Especially when some of the tiny life forms started living in the water. Everything was glittering and pretty. Everything was just perfect. Pulse. 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 Time passed. glitter was collected and I watched happily that I didn't know anything else even existed except dragons. I still had 2 scales and some skin and a little blood from them, lying near the entrance, but I didn't like dragons. They tried to take the blue stone away. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.